Hey guys, how's everyone? Oh, I'm not sure if it started already. Anyway, hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Nick from ForexNews.com with the daily analysis. I'm pretty sure we're live now. I think I started saying hey a bit too early. Today is Thursday, the 23rd of July, 2020. Time is 10:01 here in the UK. You're looking at well, we're going to go up to a US oil chart. And we'll start from the top of the list, why don't we? So, let's get into it. Hey Jackson, Matt, Flav, David, and Colin. You know, Colin, for the longest time, I thought you were like a retired, or maybe not even retired, but for some reason I had the impression that you were a retired colonel. Colonel Grant. This was like ages ago. Like a long time ago. I always thought you were Colonel Grant. And then I saw your name in my email and I'm like, of course, it's Colin. Anyway. It's COVID free up there. That's pretty good. I hear Melbourne's going through some tough times right now with COVID. I've got a bunch of friends in Melbourne and Sydney, but I actually don't know many people. I actually don't know many people up in Queensland. I have an aunt up there, but I haven't spoken to her in probably like 15 years, so. Right, you're ex-Air Force. Fair enough. Sorry. Actually, I should have kept that there because this was the... I can't remember when this was entered. I think it was here. And I screwed it up. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to fix this. No, I completely broke it. I need to get my entry and stuff back up there, but I'll do that later. Right. So, US oil's starting to pick up some steam, starting to move in our direction. It's taken quite some time, but like I've said from the start of this trade, I plan to hold this for several weeks, even several months. So I don't really care that it wasn't really doing anything until now. But it is nice that it's finally starting to move in my direction. So just going to keep that one open. AUD New Zealand, is anyone short on this already? I'll move AUDUSD to the top of the list actually. Because all these other AUD trades, we need to consider what AUDUSD is doing in order to trade these effectively. So, we're going to take a look at the currency strength meter real quick, because that gives us a little bit of insight into what the Aussie dollar is doing. Now, the currency strength meter, it's I'm programming a better version of this at the moment. It'll be released within the next few weeks. It's a far better version. This was my first version of it, and I realize now that it doesn't have enough explanation as to how it works. But basically, this number represents the 5-day strength. The 5-day strength is more significant because it tells you the strength over a longer period. This represents the 2-day strength. Basically, the 2-day strength tells us that it just tells us the strength over 2 days. So it's not as significant, but it tells us of upcoming changes. It suggests upcoming changes, but it's a lot less reliable. So what we're seeing right now is a pretty significant change on the Aussie dollar. We're seeing it go from massive strength, this is huge, down to minus 4.58, which is pretty weak, It's going from like insanely strong to pretty weak, and JPY is just absurd. Normally, anything above 50 is pretty, above or below 50 is pretty significant. So JPY, I don't think I've ever seen a currency this weak since I made this tool. And this tool, I've had the data for this tool for like several months. I just never actually made it into a tool. So for several months, I haven't seen anything this week. So minus 100 is very significant, very, very, very significant. JPY is extremely weak right now. I don't know. Got no idea if it's because of that or because of, yeah, not sure. What do you mean, what's it in relation to? Are you saying what's the number? What's it out of? Because it's not really out of anything. Theoretically, the strength could be 200 or minus 200. Theoretically, it could be minus 500. It's just very, very unlikely. Anything over 50 is extreme. It's calculated based on several factors, from percentages through to price action data. It's a well, there's a lot of data that goes into it. So first of all, this number is not a percentage. This is just a number. The data that goes in to create the number is based on percentages of movement, number one. Number two, it's based on price action. So breaks of daily highs and lows, the shape of candles. So basically what we look at when we're making our trading decisions. It's based on some economic numbers. So there's specific numbers that I take into account in order to generate the data. It's actually pretty complicated. It's very hard to explain it. But it basically takes a whole lot of data and turns it into a strength score. I don't think it's like RSI. I don't know what RSI takes into account, but I doubt it takes price action into account. No, it takes average gain, average loss. Anyway, guys, I don't want to get into it too much. Otherwise, we're just going to be here 10 minutes talking about it. Like I said, I'm going to be releasing a new version. The new version will have a lot more detail and it'll be a lot better explained. This was version 1, and while it is useful, I think I can come up with something that's going to be a little bit better for you guys. and that will be a more useful. And at that point, I'll explain it further. So for now, just know that any number above 50 is very significant, and 82 is pretty strong, but the weakness of JPY right now is absurd. It's insanely weak right now. We can see that everything is going up against JPY. I guess except the USD, because that's also very, very, very weak right now. But even that's going up against JPY over the last 2 days, which is somewhat significant. But my overall point is that, yeah, what was my overall point? I kind of forgot. Oh yeah, my overall point was AUDUSD. The AUD is still quite strong. So what I'm looking at on the price, based on the currency strength tool, but also just based on pure price action, which is foremost what I look at, not the currency strength tool. AUDUSD still has some room to move up. It doesn't look like it's going to stop right now. It looks like it could stop easily, but it still has room to move up. It hasn't made a lower low today. It hasn't made a higher high, which is also significant. But, you know, it's still pretty early in the day. The European session has only opened 2 hours ago. So the US session hasn't even opened yet. So this could really start to pick up some steam and start pushing up through this resistance area. So yeah, I'm a little skeptical as to whether it's a good idea to go short right now on the Aussie dollar. That being said, there are some pretty solid setups right now, and we are getting a pretty significant turnaround. So I asked earlier if anyone's short, and I think nobody said they are, right? So is anyone short on AUD New Zealand, AUD Cad, not AUDJPY? Doesn't look like anyone is. I'm surprised. I would have expected some of you at least to get into those trades. But it looks like none of you are. So, AUD New Zealand. I'm going to check the forum real quick to see if anyone on the forum entered. No, it doesn't look like anyone on the forum entered either. I find that pretty weird, to be honest. I would have expected a lot of you to be jumping in on this one. Even if I wasn't jumping in, I would have expected a lot of you to be jumping in on this one. So, yeah, there's not much point in discussing this one. I don't know if anyone's in it. So yeah, let's just leave it up here. Since it is technically a triggered trade, I might find out that someone is actually in it. It just wasn't shared to the forum. We'll see how that goes. But we won't go into it much. AUD Cad. Now this one you could still get in right now if you want to. It's a pretty risky trade though. We'd be trading against a very significant bullish trend and a very strong Aussie dollar. So this is reversal trading at its most riskiest. This is when you're basically entering a reversal against a major trend, hoping that if you're right, it's that trend is going to pull back for several days, essentially. Now, actually, I did say you could still enter. Probably not, actually. It's already moved down a bit too far. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend going short. It's moved down too far, unless it pulls back. So this one should have already been entered if you wanted to be in it. But once again, as I've said, with AUD New Zealand, with AUD CAD, these are very risky setups. The most likely case with these setups is that they're going to move down and then continue up, because it is a very strong bullish trend, and I'm not convinced the Aussie dollar is... I'm not even going to mark these as green because we don't know anyone who's in it. AUDUSD, this is still making its way up. I wouldn't be surprised if it breaks through this resistance area. That's what I'm looking for, essentially, for price to push through that resistance area, but it's not there yet, so let's leave that. AUDJPY, stalling out on resistance right now. Let's just wait and see with this one. Now, USD Cad, this one I'm a little bit more interested in. USD Cad has been basically, let me give you a whole summary on what USD Cad's been doing. From around March, 20th of March, USD Cad was trending down. Now, it wasn't a very strong trend. It did move sideways for quite some time and then continued down. But overall, you could say that it was a downtrend with maybe a bit of a resting period in between. Hit this support area, came back up, did its sideways movement thing again. And it basically this was a range here. It got into a range. I know on the daily chart it doesn't look like a great range, but you know, if you drop down to a lower time frame, you start to see the range a little bit more clearly. It's not a fantastic range, but it is a range. Right, you got that top resistance area that it bounced from twice. And you got that bottom support area that it bounced from quite a lot of times. Eventually, it broke out of the range a few days back, and since then it's been moving down pretty significantly. So that's where we're at now. We're at the point where USD CAD is moving down, and it's a strong move down. Now, this would be a trade with the trend, which is way more reliable. And we do have a very weak US dollar. We have a relatively strong Canadian dollar. It's not crazy strong, but it's way, way, way stronger than the US dollar. And we have it sitting right now on top of a very significant support area. It's very significant because all the way back in March, at the start of March, it broke through this resistance area in a massive, massive way. Had a huge gap. This was when all the craziness around the COVID lockdown started, where we got all that crazy movement. So at the start of March, it broke through this area and it just shot up like crazy. Then it started falling back down, as I've said. It hit this support area and turned around. So this is essentially, it's not a very significant low because it's only like a 6-week low, let's call it. But when you take it into consideration, it is a low that, I'm going to move it down a little bit. When you take it into consideration, it is a low point that price hasn't really been able to significantly get below since it got up into this area. So price is pushing down to that low, and it's possibly going to break it. If it breaks it, I'm definitely going short here. I think this is a great short opportunity. I want to get in short here. US is very weak right now. Only looks to be getting weaker. If it breaks through here, I think that it's going to fall significantly. So this is probably so far my top pick. All these other AUD ones, you know, they're technically valid reversal trades, but as I've been saying since I pointed them out, they're quite risky. So I'm very apprehensive about getting in on those. But I shared them anyway because, you know, my job with this analysis is to share everything I see, even if it is risky. If it is risky, I just warn you that it's an extremely risky trade, so you might not want to get in. Which I guess all of you agreed with me because no one actually got in those trades, which is fair enough. EURJPY, this one's also quite interesting. It's a similar-ish scenario to USD Cad. Actually, it's very, very similar to USD Cad. If anything, you could argue that this is stronger than USD Cad. So what's EURJPY doing? This high was set on the 4th of June, which coincidentally is the same time, around about the same time that the USD Cad low was set. This EURJPY high was set around about the same time. See that weekend, 5th to 8th of June? And the 5th to 8th of June was around where this low was set. This one hung around a bit longer, but that's where it was set. So this high was set around then, but this one broke below in May 2019. That's a pretty big difference. This one got below that level in May 2019. Since May 2019, it tried to get up above it once in June, and now it's going for another attempt. And we're in a pretty strong bullish trend right now. I would definitely say that there's a pretty good opportunity here to jump in long. There's a few options right now with entries. Option number one is to jump right in right now. So that would be the riskiest option, to jump in right now, but completely viable. Option number two is wait for a break of this high. So that previous high that was set, wait for a pretty clean break of that and enter there. But that one's a bit riskier, guys, because ideally you want your stop loss below the support area. But you could do that. You don't really need your stop loss below the support area. It's safer, but you could have a stop up here. As long as it's below the high, that's good enough. So this is viable too. You could wait for a break of... Yeah, you could wait for a break of this high. Or the final option would be to wait for a pullback, which is usually what I do. But honestly, with a move this strong, a pullback might never happen. So a pullback would essentially be price either now or after breaking that high, it pulls back down, hits the support area, and then continues up. So there's a lot of options here that you can take. I can't decide right now on the spot what I would do. But my temptation is actually to just jump in long right now. I know it's a bit risky, but I don't want to wait for it to break this high. Although that might be a very big barrier for it, and it might never get past this high. But waiting for it to break that high just doesn't really appeal to me because I'm going to get in pretty late. Getting in right now would be a much better entry. So waiting for it to break the high is my least liked option. The safest option would certainly be to wait for a pullback to support and then get in down here somewhere with a a better stop loss and a better target. But obviously the risk with that is that it just never comes back down. It breaks through and then it just shoots up, never coming back down. That's totally possible, and that would mean that the trade's missed. So I'm definitely leaning towards just jumping in right now with this one. It's just such a strong move that I'm tempted to just get in. On the 4 hour, it's resting at the moment. Oh, retesting. Is that what you mean? Or resting? It's doing either, really. Because it is retesting. It came back down to the support area and it's bouncing away. But you could mean resting because it is moving sideways. So I'm gonna go probably with the risky entry of entering right now. Well, not right now, but as soon as the webinar is over, I'm going to enter. But it is risky. Keep in mind, guys, it is risky. It's very possible, and it's very common in situations like this for price to come back down and test the support area. So entering right now is risky. You shouldn't just blindly follow me in. If you feel that that's too risky for you, definitely wait for that pullback. That's going to be a much safer setup. Yeah, it's risky, but I'm going to enter. I've actually made up my mind. I'm going to enter. I just need to... I'm not going to enter right now because I want to run some numbers first and calculate my risk for this trade, because it's not going to be my normal risk. I'm going to lower the risk a bit, given that it's a risky trade. So I'll do it after the webinar, but yeah, I'm going to enter that one. USD Cad, I'm also looking to enter probably in a similar fashion. On a break of this low would actually be a lot safer on USD Cad. So EURJPY, I don't want to wait for a break of that high because it's a late entry, but USD Cad, this low is not as extreme, so I probably will wait for a break of that low. So those are my two top picks right now, whereas the AUD pairs, yeah, they're viable, but meh, risky. New Zealand JPY, similar-ish scenario, actually. Got a pretty strong New Zealand dollar right now, pretty weak Japanese yen. The high was set at the same time. So basically what we're seeing here is that high or low that was set on the 5th to 8th of June. It's being retested and across multiple pairs. And if it breaks, I do think it's going to go... It's going to push up or down depending on if it's a break of a high or of a low. If it breaks the high, I think it's going to push up significantly. So these are all very similar trades. USD CAD short would be very similar to EURJPY long and New Zealand JPY long, even though they're not the same. They're not related. They're not even remotely related. You know, one's USD CAD, and obviously they're not related. I don't need to explain why. AUDJPY is not as significant. New Zealand JPY, the benefit of this one is that we could definitely wait for a break of that high to enter. Whereas EURJPY waiting for a break of the high would be too far away. But EURJPY, remember how I was saying that there's a risk that it will just hit this this high and turn back. What are we seeing on New Zealand JPY right now? It's something that we commonly see. Equal highs and then price not being able to break that high and pulling back. That's because there's a lot of orders set around these highs. These highs are significant in trading. There's a lot of sell orders set around these highs, and a lot of people just close out trades. And when I say people, I don't mean people like me and you, because our trades are insignificant in the grand scheme of things. I mean people like banks, hedge funds, and even bank algos, all that kind of stuff. They could be closing out positions at these highs because they place significance in highs and lows. So that's why you often see this with equal highs. As soon as that high is equalized, boom, price falls back down. You could actually probably make a very good and very accurate automated strategy, just picking out these extreme highs and shorting or going long if it's a extreme low as soon as it hits. It's one of the things I'm going to be programming when I get access to that software I was talking about yesterday. That new software that's coming out that allows you to code algos in JavaScript. I'm going to be messing with some automated stuff, which I'll be sharing with all members. These guys here. I don't have any association with these guys other than I want to use their software, so it's not like I'm advertising them or anything, or I have any deal with them. But full disclosure, I did talk to this dude, the guy who runs it. That way I could get access to it, but I didn't make any, like, I'm not trying to sell anything to you guys is what I'm saying. It's just some pretty cool software that I'm looking to test out. And I think a good implementation of an algo in trading would be just to short as soon as it hits these highs or lows. Because short as soon as it hits the highs, or go long as soon as it hits the lows. Because usually when these extremes are equalized, you do get that pullback. So that's what I'm thinking could very well happen on EURJPY. That's why one of the reasons I'm saying it's risky. If EURJPY hits that high, boom, it could come shooting back down. Will it come down all the way to my stop loss? Probably not, but you never know. So what's my game plan for New Zealand JPY? Game plan for New Zealand JPY, pretty simple. Here we can wait for a break. So I would wait for that break. And it's a pretty simple setup. But what I would say with New Zealand JPY is... Actually, no, never mind. I don't have anything to say about it other than it's a pretty solid setup. So I'm going to be looking to get into this one too. EURJPY is the only one that I would enter right now, but it's one of the riskier ones. So right, so what is going on here? Price hit this support area and it's turned around. Pretty predictable that it would do that. But yeah, I don't really see much opportunity to get into a trade here anytime soon, so let's just skip that one. GP New Zealand. There's still opportunity for a short here. Very similar to what I was talking about yesterday. You could jump in short. Just wanted to push a bit, basically push beyond this point to get into the trade. Beyond the psychological level, 1.9000. As soon as it gets beyond that point, so 1.9899, because psychological levels are pretty significant also, you could enter short here. It came very, very, very close yesterday. It's come very close today. It equalized the low and pulled back, but I think there's a pretty good opportunity for this to break through today. So it's another one to keep an eye on. Just wait for a break. around about 1.8998, essentially. Let's actually put that exactly where we want it. Doesn't look much different, but if you expand up, you'll see that yesterday it hit 1.9002, or almost, yeah, just below 003. So you might be thinking, does it really matter, those extra few pips? In a sense it does, because those psychological levels, those big rounded numbers like 1.9000, the bigger the rounded number, the more significant it is from a psychological standpoint. And psychological levels do have an impact in trading, because at the end of the day, even algos are programmed by people, and people put stock in psychological levels and round numbers. So another pretty significant round number is 2.00. So basically $2. $2 is an extremely significant number. That's an even bigger rounded number than 1.9000. And you can see just by looking at, if you just throw a line up at the 2000 level, how well it behaves as an area of support resistance. You can see how many times price lines up exactly with it, or it just pokes below with a few wicks in extreme market conditions, can't get up above it. It breaks through it, and then it tries to get back up above it, and it fails. Or you could just look to the left here. How many times price equalizes that 200 level. Psychological levels have an impact, and the ideal case here would be to get in just a little bit lower than where it reached yesterday, and a little bit lower of where it reached today, which is that psychological level. So we have spent 38 minutes, and I did repeat myself a lot today, which I tend to do. I know it annoys some people, but I do repeat myself a lot. We have spent 38 minutes going over just the setups we looked at yesterday. We haven't looked for anything new yet. Oof, EURUSD. Bloody hell. It's not a great resistance area. It's a very flimsy area that I just placed. It's a very flimsy resistance area, but it's the best one I can place right now. Price is near resistance on EURUSD. Let's wait and see. GBPUSD, I'm so tempted. I got into this one last week here, and it failed. Got in too early for a short. I was basing it on resistance being here, but there was no doubt resistance there. It did stall there for a while, but it did end up pushing up further to the stronger and more recent resistance area. So I shorted last week, failed trade. Now I'm tempted to short again. Very tempted. I'm going to keep an eye on it, guys. I'm going to keep an eye on it. See how it plays out. Probably not going to enter. USD CHF. broke out. Missed that breakout. I missed that breakout and I'm pretty sad about it. I don't know, let me see. You could be right. I could be totally wrong. Pretty bad resistance placement. 679. Yeah, I mean, that's only one bounce though. Well, I guess. You might actually be right. It's all pretty old data. It's going back to 2018. EURUSD is at highs it hasn't been at for ages. So resistance up here is going to be very tricky to place for a while. But I actually think you might be right. I was looking for resistance too high up. This makes way more sense. So it looks like it's actually breaking resistance. There's actually some potential here on EURUSD, guys. It's nice because it also backs up the EURJPY position I want to take, which I hope it hasn't moved too much. I want to get in pretty much where it's at now. EURUSD is pushing up significantly. There's a pretty solid opportunity here. Going long on a breakout again, very similar to EURJPY. Basically just going long on a break of yesterday's high. Pretty generous stop loss. You could do that. I'm going to go with EURJPY. It doesn't really matter that much which one I go with anyway. They both have potential. It's just JPY is so weak right now that I think JPY has more room to move. But US is not far behind in terms of weakness, so some decent potential for both of those. Yeah, we went through all of these. Yeah, sorry, I kind of missed that one. It's a good thing you brought it to my attention, Flav. I placed that resistance area, like I said, it was pretty flimsy when I placed it. I didn't realize this lower resistance area, and now having placed it, this looks much better for a setup. So thanks for bringing that to my attention. I probably would have missed it otherwise. So yeah, I guess that wraps it up for the analysis, guys. There's a lot happening. I'm going to mark these AUD ones as purple, just because most of them have triggered. Not this one. This one hasn't really triggered because this one's a different thing. But most of these have triggered or are triggering, but they're relatively risky setups that I don't necessarily recommend, I'd say. So they're just something that, you know, is technically a viable setup, but it's against a pretty strong trend, so you might not want to enter. So for these ones, I'm going to mark them as purple. I kind of want them separate from the actual setups I'm really interested in, which is going long on the euro and going short on the US dollar. And also going short on the yen and long on stuff going against the yen, like the New Zealand dollar. GBPUSD is the only reversal I'm actually looking at, and I'm not really even that confident with it, but GBPUSD, potential for a short reversal here. But other than that, I'm mostly looking for longs against the US dollar, or shorts, or shorting the US dollar. I'm basically looking to sell USD and JPY right now. So, are there any questions, guys? Jackson, I'm not really good with that kind of super long-term analysis. It's not my strong point. So yeah, I can't help you with that. Interesting. That could very well be true. Could be like a short-term negative. Alright, it doesn't look like there's any questions, guys, so I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you very much for attending. It was a long analysis session today. We're at 50 minutes, but we did cover a lot. Keep an eye on all of these setups. They're all pretty solid. Thank you once again for attending, and I'll see you. Well, it's going to have to be Tuesday. But I kind of want to follow up on these setups. So I might do that on the forum, or I might do a special analysis session tomorrow, because I do kind of want to follow up on these setups. So we'll see how that goes. So I'll either see you tomorrow or on the forum. We'll see how it works out. So thank you guys for attending, and I'll see you soon.